What happens when an entire generation of people cannot enter a job market because entry-level jobs have collapsed?
I guess I'm gonna be homeless. You still can't find a job? No. Like, why did I even go to college? You should have gone to trade school. I make $1 million a year.
Gen Z is facing the worst unemployment rate in decades.
More often than not, it's literally just rejection, 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 and it's always like the automated messages.
The job market has been particularly hostile to young workers for the past year. Unemployment for new college grads has been quite high, and a lot of young people are really struggling to break into the market.
Somebody told me to use some app called Sprout, where you can like scroll and it makes it faster.
And every time you swipe right, the AI automatically applies to the company's website with a personalized resume and cover letter for that role.
Friendly reminder?
Friendly reminder, just a friendly reminder that this is a complete waste of time.
And this is your friendly reminder that all those posts you see on social media advertising the Sprout Job app are ads. It's also not free. They are trying to make you pay to apply to jobs.
The U.S. economy added a modest 50,000 jobs last month. That was below expectations and capped the weakest year for job growth since the pandemic.
The economy has not been able to create any jobs. And the job growth we are getting very narrowly concentrated in the healthcare sector, a bit in leisure hospitality, but outside of that, we're seeing job loss and no job creation.
According to Labor Department data, nearly 2 million Americans have been out of work for at least 27 weeks.
I had 13 interviews with 11 different people. And
13 interviews for one company?
Yeah, and then they were stuck between me and the other candidate. And ultimately they went with the other person. And I was like, I can't keep doing this.
If you or someone you know has been searching for jobs in 2026, you're probably already aware of just how bad the job market really is. This CNBC article written by Jeff Cox states that 92,000 US jobs were shed in February 2026, contrasting forecasted job market gains and increasing the unemployment rate to 4.4%. Also in February 2026, according to J&J Staffing Resources, the amount of long-term unemployed U.S. citizens, which is measured by not having a job for 27 weeks or more, is 1.9 million. Now, instead of being all doom and gloom and being like, I'm never gonna get hired, it is what it is, and throwing in the towel, or like me, going to college for 4 years and studying a dying craft and not being able to get into the industry for it, let's look at why this is actually happening. Well, as it turns out, the term entry level is actually a little misleading. Really, what we mean by entry level is you already have entered the industry, and this is a level above that. What I'm trying to get at by saying that terribly written joke is that 35% of entry-level jobs require 3 to 5 years of experience already in the industry. I also feel like people that are searching for jobs within whatever industry are also given the advice, just take an internship and learn more about the job there. But we can't land that either. You know why? The internship also requires experience. Correct me if I'm wrong in this assumption, but I thought that the point of an internship was that you didn't have experience and you were supposed to learn more about the job and the industry as a whole through the internship program. But most internships, in my industry included, expect you to have some form of experience before joining the program, which in the end creates a paradox of which one came first, the chicken or the egg. Only in this case, there is no chicken and there is no egg. There's not even a farmer, it's just a robot, but we're gonna save that for later. We're gonna talk about AI a lot later. The point is that the term entry level has objectively changed definitions recently. The best way to get into whatever industry is to just be within the industry, or if you're not, the best way then is to know someone who is in the industry, and obviously for the overwhelming majority of people, that is not the case.
Our grocery store is hiring for the position of bagger. You need to have 10, preferably 15, years of experience and a master's degree.
Job type, internship, required experience, 3 years of video production, editing, and videography. Expert financial writer for 10 to 50 cents an hour. Where? What century are we paying people? I don't even know how you can call that a salary. Senior front-end developer, $8 to $15 an hour. What a joke. Actually, it's even worse down here. It says $10 an hour. For anybody who's not in the know, that's like $20,000 a year. 20 years of experience for $18 to $22 an hour. Master's degree for $15.29 an hour. This one wants you to do 4 to 6 weeks of training unpaid. And to top it off, they wrote it in the most condescending way they could possibly think of. This one says that the person is required to pay $500 a week to work there.
Here's what you've got to know about the job search during the coronavirus outbreak. So many companies right now can't afford to not hire.
Despite 2020 being a pretty uneventful year, unemployment actually spiked during 2020, reaching 14.8% because, well, people had to go inside to avoid that mysterious virus. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it before. And between the months of February and April of 2020, about 22.1 million jobs were lost from the US economy. But the following year, 2021, the US economy recovered about a quarter of those, in 5.4 million jobs returning back to the US. It certainly wasn't the amount of jobs they had before the pandemic, but 5.4 million is sure as hell a lot more than zero. By the end of 2021, the unemployment rate was down from 14% all the way to 4.2%. And even though the unemployment rate was higher than 2019's unemployment rate, which was 3.6, that lowered unemployment rate would only be reached in 2021 because of the job openings surging to over 10 million jobs here in the States. And that's great. I know some people that had to make some adjustments around the pandemic, and I'm incredibly grateful that their careers turned out perfectly fine both during and after. I'll say it, one of the scariest times of my life. Probably wasn't that scary, I just needed some buzzwords to make this video more exciting than it is. But why would I waste a whole minute of this video telling you about the past, and especially why would we reminisce about 2020 or 2021? Well, for one thing, ever since the pandemic ended, a lot of businesses still follow the work from home business model, allowing employees to work remotely, which is a good thing because moving can be inconvenient and not every wage covers moving costs. But also this post-pandemic job market has what's called a low fire, low hire trend, where employees are scared to leave their jobs behind because, well, they know how the job market is, resulting in no vacancies for juniors to fill and no one being able to enter the industry. But also from the company's perspective, it's a gamble to fire an employee because that means a vacancy. And a vacancy means we have to look to the talent pool for someone to replace that former employee. And with no tangible evidence, we don't know how good they'll actually be at the job. Even if they list impressive qualifications on their resume, their theoretical performance versus their actual performance at the job might tell two different stories, resulting in these companies' mottos transforming into, nah dude, don't worry about it, we got everyone. We don't need to hire anyone, and even if we do, someone in our company will know somebody. We're over here, the college grads are over there. We're not even gonna look at the college grads, and now all we gotta do is watch the millions roll on in. Which means people like me who are college grads but who might happen to be introverts and are too shy to network with people on LinkedIn who are in my industry aren't even close to getting jobs. Not that you're not close to getting a job, or that I can't get it. The point is, and this low fire, low hire trend is still continuing in the workplace. In January 2026, the percent of employees leaving their jobs behind, creating vacancies for juniors to fill, was only 2%, leaving like 2 jobs for people trying to get into the industry. And the unemployment rate in February 2026 is up to 4.4%, which I'm aware is not as bad as the 2008 recession, but it is still something worth talking about. Okay, with all these boring statistics aside, earlier I said I was going to talk a lot about AI, but since I already have 2 videos talking about AI and it's kind of stale, let's keep this short. But it's basically just the idea that whenever a company needs someone with a junior position in order to do something like low-level coding or finance or art for some reason, instead of hiring someone to do that, they'll make their robot do it instead. And they do this because they don't see the value in art or letting a human being code when the machine can do it sufficiently for itself. They don't see artistic value and human expression as something beautiful and worth being admired, but they see it as an asset. Because remember, their robots that they use to make art is trained on existing art. So whatever their robot poops out is just a crappy amalgamation of things that already exist. Which means these companies are objectively making products that look worse and then lose money anyways. Because even if you conserve on budget a little bit by not hiring an art team for your video game or your movie or your TV show or whatever, you're still going to have marginally less of an audience because AI generated media already has a stigma around it. And to be fair, I think that stigma has a point. AI prompt artists are just grifters trying to make a quick buck. And it makes me sad because not only are you flooding and saturating the creative space with things that look objectively worse, but you're also keeping people from getting jobs. Not to mention causing RAM prices and electricity bills to skyrocket everywhere. All for what? So you can generate this video of Hamilton rapping? We already have a whole musical of this. Why'd you even make this?
Hamilton speaking from the $10 bill. Stuck in this green frame, but I got time to kill. Yo, drop the ink, raise a pint. Let's get specific. I'm young, scrappy, and hungry. Yeah, I'm prolific. Revolutions brewing deep in the foam of my ale. King George thinks he's winning. Nah, that ship is...
Sorry, I got way too heated and this section went on way too long. I just feel like it's such a weird time for the world. Gen Z has such a bleak outlook for the future. I would argue rightfully so, but who knows? Maybe the only reason I haven't gotten a job in my industry yet is because I haven't worked hard enough. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.
Married business owners, Lucy and Eric. So you say right now you just won't hire Gen Z employees.
No, we don't.